Xenogears was my introduction into the JRPG realm of video games, and I haven't looked back since. And what made it so compelling to me was my love of such anime as Gundam Wing, Macross, Appleseed, and many other mecha anime of the 90s. The cutscenes in Xenogears also really evoked that 90s anime aesthetic. And the storyline contained within Xenogears was just as captivating and all-encompassing as anything you'd see on Evangelion or Superbook. Does anyone remember Superbook?
Who's stealing my fruit?
I don't know anything about any fruit, mister. Wait a minute. Will you let me wash dishes for you to pay you for the fruit? Wait, I can't let you go home with a strange man. I'm not frightened.
If you've played Xenogears, you'd understand why I reference those two anime specifically, as they both are steeped in its respective religious connotations and references, much like Xenogears. Xenogears was released back in 1998, written by the legendary Tetsuya Takahashi, kicking off what's known as the Xeno series, spawning the Xenosaga trilogy and the Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy. Now, I had a fun and fulfilling time playing the Xenosaga and Xenoblade Chronicles series of games, but whatever happened to Xenogears? The game that started it all. The Xenogears, above all those other games, has had the richest storyline, albeit the most convoluted at the same time, but it was a product of its time. It set the standard for JRPGs of the 90s and was the beginning of a trend we'd see coming from Squaresoft as they continued to grow within the space, the JRPG space. It was, a very unique time for JRPGs, RPGs in general, as we saw so many niche and cult classics in similar veins produced before or around the same time in the 90s. Legend of Mana, Romancing Saga, Star Ocean, and one of my all-time favorites, Vagrant Story. Xenogears stood out the most to me, and while it's great to see the legacy of the franchise flourishing to this day, a couple decades later, I think us fans of the Xenogears series were kind of shortchanged a little bit. As robust and rich as the world of Xenogears was, we'd only see those memorable characters truly shine in that one game. Faye, Bart, Satan, Rico, Ellie, these characters and their stories were deserving of something more. I personally would have loved maybe a spin-off, perhaps, where we're in control of Bartholomew and his sand pirates cruising through the Ignis Desert. Maybe we get the opportunity to play out the events that took place before Bart discovered his very own gear. It'd be amazing to experience the moment Bart is face to face with Brigandaire and Himdall. And it's not like spin-offs are something outside of the realm of possibility for JRPGs. Although Xenogears predates it, Final Fantasy X had a spin-off entitled Final Fantasy X2, which saw Yuna as the main protag in search for Titus. Now, it was an interconnected story to the first game, but what it showed me is that Square isn't above the idea of revisiting certain characters within certain franchises if they believe there's more to their story and more depth to their character.
I smell something good. Hey, you're right.
Now, walking away from Xenogears, I personally was left with so many questions. Not just about the story, but also the characters within the game. Like that little boy named Dan with the receding hairline, he kind of looked like George Costanza. You know who I'm talking about. Yeah, the redhead dude, the ginger. Now, he was hell-bent on getting revenge for the death of his sister Alice and the destruction of his hometown Lahan. Now, he eventually learns later on in the game that Faye wasn't responsible for the destruction, that it was his id, Faye's id, sure, blame it on the id, now which he later on forgives Faye. But it'd be nice to have seen more about how Dan coped with the loss of his hometown and his sister, and following him on his vengeful path as he sought out Faye to kill him. I mean, this game really gave off The Last of Us 2 Ellie hunting down Abby vibes. Square done did it before Naughty Dog ever thought they could make a viable game without a Wumpa fruit eating marsupial. Yeah, that's right, Naughty Dog, I'm calling you out. Big dog. Anyways, I really wanted to experience the story from Dan's perspective. This was just a kid who was forced to grow up sooner than he had anticipated. He saw Faye as a friend, and what he witnessed truly scarred him. He took that fight to Faye in the battling tournament, and I remember playing it, not wanting to lay a single hand on that kid, and then he threw a dress at me. It was his sister Alice's wedding dress. He quit that fight then and there. It was really gut-wrenching. And the thing with JRPGs of this nature at this particular time is that they're all dependent upon text on screen, so you're left to interpret the emotion of the words in your head. Now, I personally hung onto every single word I saw on screen, and I felt the emotional impact. Now, Xenogears is a cult classic, and it's not done in the eyes of the fandom. I'd be happy with a remake, but we likely won't see that happening anytime soon. Now, we received one for Final Fantasy VII, which is honestly hands down a JRPG smash hit. It's a banger and well deserving of a remake. But Xenogears, in my book, is well up there as far as classic 90s RPG influences go. RPGs of influence. It had influence and it still does. That's why I'm talking about it right now. Now, it's just a shame the only way we'll be able to experience that world is by plugging in our PS1 console and booting up that screen to replay a game we've likely played a frickin' dozen times already. I know I played it at least 16 times, yeah. And if you haven't played it and you love RPGs, I recommend you find yourself a copy. I mean, they're pretty expensive on eBay, but you know, that's because it's a cult classic and enthusiasts of the particular medium such as myself make videos like this to hype up that particular game and make dildos like this person hike up the frickin' price. Like, seriously, man, it ain't worth it unless, you know, you're a collector looking for, you know, a pristine copy. But the thing is, games were meant to be played, not just looked at on a shelf. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Xenogears. If you've played the game, please share your thoughts in the comment section down below. I can wax poetically about video games all day, and I plan on making more videos like this. I also quite literally wax poetically about video games at my day job, so you can catch me there. But you know what, I'm less buttoned up here and can talk loosely about video games that I love. So hit that subscribe button. I got a few more videos planned just like this, so stay tuned.